joining us on the line now is Trevor Matich from he's our Redskins analyst, to give us a lowdown on how the Redskins did this weekend. Listen very quickly to what Jay Gruden had to say.
Football's about continue to compete and playing 16 games. We only get 16 cracks at it. We only get 16. We've lost 9 of them. We got to finish on a high note, continue coaching, and we're going to play this game hard.
Yeah, they lost big time. It was 49-27. But, Trevor, in that, some people looked at the performance of Colt McCoy, now that RG3 has been benched, and said they saw some things that they found favor with. 392 yards of passing, a quarterback rating of 113.1. Now, I feel that we had the best chance to win with Colt McCoy. I think Larry feels. Larry, you feel differently. I want to let you say your.
I think this is the worst loss of the season for the Redskins, and it was humiliating. And the fact that he had a good stat line in the box score is meaningless.
So who's right?
All right, Trevor.
Trevor?
This morning.
I'm sorry, say it again, Trevor.
Brian is right, and Larry needs a new hat this morning.
I see. All right.
Yeah, that's right. The Colt McCoy started very slowly, but he suffered from a lot of the same problems that RG3 suffered from in terms of bad protection and things like that. The difference is that instead of melting down like RG3 has done, and by the way, Kirk Cousins has done, Colt McCoy kept fighting and did not make the big mistakes. Sometimes he stayed too long in the pocket and got sacked. But let me ask you this, Larry. Coming into this game, if I would have told you before the game that Colt McCoy would throw for almost 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and the Redskins would score 27 points on the road at Indianapolis, would you take it?
Well, knowing that the Indianapolis Colts have, I think, the 25th ranked defense against the pass, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, who isn't scoring points against the Colts? Let me compare it, Trevor, to a different Redskins quarterback. First game of the season against the Houston Texans, a pretty tough defense that first week. That quarterback, Robert Griffin III, threw 29 for 37 for close to 300 yards, an average of 7.2 yards per pass, just a little bit under Colt McCoy's average of 8.3 yards per pass. If RG3 could play the kind of offense that Colt McCoy was allowed to play yesterday, I think he would have racked up similar numbers.
Probably would have. But at the same time, he has also shown that he's not able to process information like Colt did. And Colt did a good job under the same kind of pressure that RG3 was under in moving the team anyway and scoring touchdowns anyway.
I'm sorry. Listen, Trevor, you do know more about this than I do, but I don't see it as the same kind of pressure considering this was the Colts, again, ranked 25th in the league. The last game that RG3 played against the San Francisco 49ers, that's the number 3 team in the league against the pass. It is not the same kind of pressure. The Niners are a much better defensive team than the Colts.
The Colts sacked Colt McCoy 6 times. They battered him much like we've seen RG3 get battered. The difference is that when Colt was not getting battered, he was completing passes down the field. Yeah. When RG3 was not getting battered, he was looking lost and confused.
He was also running the running game with Alfred Morris getting 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. Alfred Morris was invisible yesterday.
Partly because the Colts jumped out to a big enough lead early enough that the Redskins had to pass. So you're right about that, Larry. That did distort the passing numbers a little bit because the Redskins had to throw more than they wanted to throw. They wanted to stay with the run, but they had to go into catch-up mode. Okay. But the key is that Colt, while he made some mistakes, he didn't make the big mistakes of forcing the ball into tight coverage and exposing himself to interceptions.
Let me ask you this question, though. It has to do with the secondary, which it may have actually not shown up for the game. I'm not really sure. The Redskins secondary was the most abysmal performance that I've seen of a secondary in a long time. You could drive a truck through that secondary. And, in fact, that's sort of what happened, isn't it?
That's exactly what happened. There were 4 long touchdown passes of 30 yards or more. 2 of those were over 70 yards. Most of them were because of busted coverages. And that's really where the Redskins faltered in this game. The secondary was terrible. Now, the pass rush was also terrible. They didn't get pressure on Andrew Luck. But you still need to not bust the coverage in the secondary. Now, a large part of that can be attributed to injuries. I mean, their best corner, D'Angelo Hall, has been out most of the year.
Right.
They had 2 other corners out coming into this game. They lost another guy in Brandon Merriweather during the game, and all of a sudden they have a guy for the practice squad up there. They've got a guy that hasn't played much for the last 2 years in there for Merriweather, Philip Thomas. Greg Ducre's a guy that was on the Chargers practice squad earlier this year. He's now their third corner. And so they were making fundamental mistakes in basic coverages. But at the same time, you know, it's a tough situation to have to be in against a guy like Andrew Luck, to have to mix and match so many practice squad players in the secondary.
Diane Rossini over at Channel 4 has said she's talked to management over at the Redskins and that there is no thought of starting anyone other than Colt McCoy in the coming game.
I think that's the right thing to do, because RG3 has shown the coaches that he's not able to learn. RG3 did not have to show competence, not even competence, much less mastery of the offense.
Yeah.
All he had to show was that he was improving, just baby steps. But instead of an improving line going slightly upwards week to week, he was flatlined at the bottom.
Yeah.
And he would have plays that were just so remarkably simple to read that he didn't see what was happening in front of him.
Well, hold on. Let me ask you a question. I mean, given that, is RG3 done?
I think RG3 is done as a Redskin.
Yeah.
I think he'll move on.
You
to
just
another
better hope
place.
he doesn't go to another NFC East team. That's the thing, because I think that he's got a future in the NFL, and I think he's been completely mismanaged by this rookie coach. And by the way, I just want to say, going back to that first game of the season, Redskins lose 17-6. RG3 has a competent game, I think a pretty steady game. This last week, they lost to the 49ers by 4 points. And both times, all I heard was, well, they didn't win, and the bottom line is if the team doesn't win, that falls to the quarterback. So how long does Colt McCoy get this beautiful honeymoon that they're allowed to lose by 22 points, but he's the hero of the game?
Larry, you didn't hear that from me. Because when you have a bad team, there's more than just winning and losing. There's how you win and how you lose and whether you're improving. And that was the problem with Robert Griffin III.
Yeah.
He wasn't improving. He wasn't assimilating and grasping the simplest of things to do.
I know. I didn't hear it from you, Trevor. I heard it from someone else in the room. I'm using you as a proxy.
About the NFC East, because the truth of it is, up there at Philadelphia, Coach Brian Kelly has made really a Pro Bowl quarterback out of Nick Foles, and an effective quarterback out of Mark Sanchez.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
So RG3 wouldn't be the RG3 of 2012 in Philadelphia if he went there, but he would be I think effective because Kelly's good at finding ways to do that.
We got to leave it there, Trevor Matich. It's going to be a scintillating conversation all week long, and I am not getting a new hat. Trevor Matich,
Thanks, Trevor.
Redskins analyst.